Welcome to Where's Your Next on this
There we
Halloween.
go.
We are here with my good friend, and everybody knows this amazing human being. Her name is the famous Amy Miller, and she is absolutely dressed up today for this. So, what I was planning to do is I wanted to get going and talk about what we're seeing in our industry right now. I want to talk a little bit about my new gig because this is the first time introducing it on air. And we're gonna have one of our fun conversations. This is number 3 episode with Amy Miller, but you know what? She's always one of the funnest calls that I ever have because we can talk about so many things, and then
So many things.
we commiserate about the industry, what's happening, all those things. So today on Where's Your Next, I wanted to make the announcement, and it's probably clear to everybody who knows me a little bit at this point. I have gotten a new job. I have been there for about 3 months. I am the sourcing manager at AARP, which is an amazing organization. Let me see if I have the magazine in my backpack. Ooh,
I just became a member, Mike. They got me with the free tote bag.
Yes, and you can join. Doesn't matter your age. I'm 46 and I joined. So they're very cool. Great organization, by the way. Go check out our career site, careers.aarp.org. Shameless plug.
Love it.
Anyway, they are amazing. And today we're going to talk about, the spooky world of recruiting on this Halloween. Woo! So, Amy, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. When I'm not fighting, when I'm not leading the rebellion, I am a recruiter for a very large company that you may have heard of. You can go check out my LinkedIn if you are really, really interested in where I work and what I do. But I've been in recruiting for 26 years now. Big company, small company, agency, corporate. And now I am building teams that build satellites. So I am a space geek. Might have figured that much out.
Ooh.
But yeah.
Hey,
some space.
May the force be with you.
Yes.
And today she had this very cool, I don't know where you got the costume. It was absolutely fabulous. And you look like a stormtrooper. No, it was Kaio Fen, wasn't it?
Yeah, the original recruiter. I mean, think about it. Bounty hunter. You go find people for money. Sounds like recruiting to me.
Exactly what it is, right?
But I had to shake it up a bit, and I had to give the rebellion some love. So I've got my
that's so
great
cool. I love the hat. It's so great. Yeah, no, and I asked you earlier today. I said, "Hey, make sure you wear some Star Wars gear," and she did. He came through. I should have worn a costume. I didn't. I was too stupid. I just didn't. I'm just wearing the Utah Hockey Club gear today because we got a new hockey.
There you go.
We're excited about that. About here in Utah, but well, let's talk about what we're facing. Should we start with the spooky one, the spooky topic that everybody wants to talk about? Let's talk about AI and recruiting. Why not? Right? Let's go there. Ooh. So before I go into that though, there's a few other plugs I want to give for Amy. So she's got this amazing YouTube channel called Recruiting in Yoga Pants, right?
Yes.
And she shares tips with job seekers frequently, which is amazing. And so you demystify the whole recruiting process, and you've done a service to many. Now, I want to do more of that content myself, but you're just amazing. I probably won't make it as good as you can, but I probably will have more vlogcasts of my own just talking about that.
I love it. Please do. We need all the help we can get.
Yeah. And you're a LinkedIn top voice.
Yeah.
You speak at different conferences as well, which was
Every
the
time
most
they
recent
let me.
one. Was it RecFest that you spoke at?
I did RecFest last year. Yeah. So that was the last in-person one. And I feel terrible. So I'm so sorry, Jamie, but I have pneumonia during that presentation. So please let me have a do-over.
From what I heard, from all intents and purposes, it was really good.
Yeah.
So
thank you. I did my best. James Ellis was making sure I was staying hydrated. So it worked out. We got through it.
Shameless available for speaking gigs too.
Yes, I'm available. Call me.
My last My last one was Minnesota.
Oh,
Source on
really?
that.
Okay.
Oh no, I have to. Let me take that back. It was actually Recruit DC, so I did that one. So that one was
Oh,
really
Recruit DC was the first one I ever did.
yeah, it's amazing. That is
2015.
and it's
So
such a
good.
great group out there. That
Amazing
was so
group.
much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about so AI. So
Yeah.
let's demystify a little bit. So to the reality is that AI is not going to take any recruiting jobs anytime
No.
soon. It's just not
No.
there. I mean, okay, let's define a little bit more. So what is the AI that we're seeing out there right now? Mostly generative AI, language
Hmm.
models, you know, large language models. That's the type of AI. And so can it do a lot of good recruiting things? Yes. So the main stuff it can do right now is it can help you source.
Yes.
It can help you uh, maybe rank candidates in your ATS
It could.
from the standpoint of showing the ones that might best match the job. But a human recruiter is still going to likely review it.
Yeah.
Um,
Giving
you
myself a
know,
headache.
yeah, no, that's fine. You can take it off. That was a good starting out of the gate. Um, let's see. A lot of recruiters use Chat GPT maybe for creating like a job post, for example. That's a really good
Sure.
one.
Yeah.
Outreach, it can help with creative outreach that helps a recruiter get. You should always change the template it gives you, of course, but
Oh, for
so
sure.
you can personalize a little more. So I think some of the biggest challenges we see are hyper personalization. I don't think it has the ability to do that. It has the
Yeah.
ability to maybe carry on a conversation with a human on the phone, and it could probably do like a light screening, but not
Mhm.
anything that I would recommend is going to be good for overall hiring at the moment. I mean, it's very mechanical feeling
Yeah.
sometimes, like, and many candidates can tell that it's a robot. Chatbots on the um, other things that we see are chatbots on the website, the career site that's
Yeah.
helping people drill down. So a lot of those things are very useful, but let's just demystify it. I don't think that candidates need to be concerned for any time soon, really,
No.
for a major, it's coming to take your job scenario. The problem is, and Amy's going to agree with me, and we're kind of from the same thought line of thinking on this.
Yeah.
We like to debunk these things because you'll see a lot of my content is geared towards that, and Amy's is too. But the reality is that's all clickbait. So when you
Yeah.
see when you when you see the the practicality of how people are using AI
Yeah.
in recruiting, the issue is that it's helping us with productivity. That's definitely a truism
Hmm.
there, but it is not taking jobs at the moment, at least. And now,
Right.
maybe some jobs, it could be, for example, maybe there's some jobs that it takes over in marketing, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe some writing jobs, editing, things of that sort. But it is nowhere near the sentient level that it
Yeah.
takes to be like it's self-aware. We're not talking about Skynet here yet.
No, for real. I mean, and I think there's two things that I would caution people to like not lose sight of. Okay. So number one, this is a tool.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is no different. This is a tool, much like Excel is a tool that we use to crunch numbers, and email is a tool that we use to communicate. Your vehicle is a tool that you use to go from point A to point B. Now, obviously, we've seen some significant technological advances. We're no longer doing math on the thing with the beads.
The little slide, yeah,
Yeah,
ruler,
you know what I'm
slide
talking
rule, yeah.
about. We don't ride horses so much anymore for like day-to-day commuting, right? So
Yeah.
and even like what was the other example I gave? Doesn't matter. But it's a tool, right? And so like
Yeah.
any of those tools, it's only as good, as effective, or as bad as the person who is using it. The
Yep.
foundational, step by step by step of recruiting has not changed significantly in 50 years, but it has definitely, the way we've done it and the tools we use have changed. So that's number one. It is simply a tool. AI is going to do what I tell it to do. So if I'm using it for sourcing, I'm plugging in certain criteria. I'm asking for certain results. I'm going to go through those results and I'm going to tweak my ask or my prompt to get what I'm looking for,
Right.
or to improve or shortlist or what have you. The second important thing for people to consider, this stuff ain't cheap. And we are
Oh yeah.
in a challenging market, right?
Yep.
There's not a ton
Yep.
of hiring. We're still seeing layoffs. I really I have to ask, does anyone actually believe that companies are investing millions of dollars into something that we don't even know will actually work in this economy?
Yep. Yeah.
Recruiting is, I don't think it's a cost center, but the people with the money think it's a cost center, and they're not going to spend the money on something like that,
That's very true. It's
unless,
very true.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the point being for job seekers and, recruiters out there, learn how to use it.
Yeah.
That's the advice we'd give
Sure.
you. Learn how to use it.
100%.
Be a good prompt engineer. You kind of alluded to that. So
Sure.
the
Yeah.
prompt engineering is key. If you want to follow someone who's really knowledgeable in this space, who I think is worth paying attention to, and I don't agree with everything that he says, but I think he's spot on a lot of it. Mike Wolfer, definitely, I
Yeah.
would call
Yeah.
out as a leader in the recruiting
Mhm.
industry space, where he's on top of it. He knows
Yeah.
exactly how it
He's done a lot
works.
of deep research. Yeah.
He's done really good, and I think he kind of debunks some of the mysteries about it, and he also puts it in its proper place. I think he does a good job of that. On the other hand, I think there's a lot of because it's new, I think people are kind of freaking out about it.
Sure.
So in this economy, I think there's a few other things that are interesting. So tomorrow, I'm keeping an eye out. Is it gonna be the ADP report come out tomorrow? Or I wonder if it'll come out right before the election. So when
Whoa,
you
good
when you
question.
looked at the hiring, so it's been kind of steady. And it's interesting. People have predicted that. So you saw that the Fed cut interest rates. So they increased
Yeah.
interest rates to bring down inflation. I think they're having the proper effect. So if you
Yeah.
watched, what's his name? Powell. I forget his first name. It's
I
not
know
coming
who
to me
you're
right
talking about.
now.
I can't think of it either.
Anyway, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. There we go. So
That's the
Jerome
one.
Powell is an interesting fellow to listen to. And if there's anyone who's got their pulse on the economics
Yeah.
in a good way that just kind of explains it, he can connect the dots. If you go listen to some of the Fed chair talks that he
Mhm.
gives, I would definitely encourage people to do so, because it's very interesting. And he has a point of view on it that I don't think other people have. And that's who the finance people are listening to. So if you
Okay.
want to kind of have a good point of view, that's who Wall Street listens to too, right?
Yeah.
So that there's that. I think the other thing would be kind of, if you look at the trend line, hiring was really wacko, and
Yeah.
part of
It
that
was.
was due the whole repercussion of everything that's happened the past 4 years. A lot of it had to do with, it was just stabilizing since COVID
Yeah.
the
For
hit the
sure.
economy and caused shocks, right? So
For sure.
if there's hope to be found right now for those who've been laid off and who've gone through that, look at it this way: a lot of those companies overhired, and
Right.
the layoffs were not necessarily tied to a bad economy.
Yeah. It was
It's
just a lot of
more
resetting.
to
Yeah.
resetting, because they overhired and their projections were off, and then that caused some pain. However, once it stabilizes, so right now what you're seeing, a lot of finance people that I talk to, they're looking at until after the election. They're looking at the new year
We see that
for their
every
hiring.
election cycle, I feel like.
So, and I think that's kind of what we're experiencing a little bit here. I think there's a certain amount of things that are kind of behind the scenes, but the economy fundamentally is still sound. That, if you look at all the analysts and all what everybody's saying,
Yeah.
we're not in a recession, and that's, it may feel like it to some,
Sure.
but it's just a resetting. And
Yeah.
that's an interesting way of looking at it. So how do you prepare? I was going to ask you this question: in this environment, how do you stay relevant? How do you
Yeah.
stay at the top of your game, Amy. I think you have a good point of view on that, and I always love your point of
I
view because
tell
I
you,
follow you, and I think it's so fun hearing you kind of share your opinion because you're always
thank
facts
you.
based. You're always on
I
target that
try.
way.
I try
You
to
know,
be very realistic and
you
very
get rid of the
real.
emotion out of it, and you cut
Can't
to the
do it.
chase through the
Yeah,
noise.
you just gotta you just gotta get to the point, right? I think what I always encourage job seekers to understand is there's two things. There's what you can do, and there's what you can get paid to do. They're not always the same thing, right? And that's really unfortunate. I know a lot of people, I read an article just yesterday, I think, about the creator economy apparently is like in shambles and prices are getting slashed and people are asked to being, these influencers are asked to like create stuff for way less money. And so the investment has gone down a lot, apparently, from what I'm reading. And that's a clear example of that. There's what you can do, there's what you're good at, there's what you enjoy, there's what you want to do. But is anyone paying for that? And so sometimes we have to think about, well, okay, if that's gone away, what can I do for money? And so thinking about even just changing industries, right? Like manufacturing is on fire. Every manufacturing recruiter I know is busier than ever. I am recruiting for manufacturing teams, both like entry-level assembly technicians all the way up through the engineering and leadership. It's insane. I can't find enough people. Now, if you're not already in manufacturing, how do you pivot to it? That's obviously a question we'd have to figure out. But I think job seekers really need to hone in on like, what is hot right now? And what are maybe, and here's the other part of that. Maybe it's not the sexiest industry. Maybe it's not the coolest company. Do they pay? Like that's what we need to focus on.
Do they pay and do they need help? Well, I'll tell you one space that's really kind of consistently hiring.
Yeah.
Even in and it's been that way for the last couple of years, is construction.
Huge. Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of people
do
not think of the construction world, the blue collar world, which is always hiring.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is if you're kind of pivoting and you're looking, take a look at that industry very carefully because it's got a lot of stability. The other one is healthcare.
Yeah.
Healthcare is always going to be there.
Yeah.
So those are just a few examples. So you're right about manufacturing. Even if things tick up or tick down, it's interesting because everybody wanted to be in the tech space for the longest time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those folks, if you talk to some of the job seekers that are over on that side, what's another red hot space that's just going to keep growing? AI. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
And how the applications for AI keep expanding. So my advice is become really good at AI stuff and go look up prompt engineering. Just have a little fun today and go look and see how many prompt engineering jobs there's plenty of them right now. And if you're looking for a stopgap measure, something that's going to get you through and you're in tech, look at AI carefully. Okay.
Yeah.
And even if it's just a prompt engineering role, get good at it, understand how to do it, take a class on it, and then have it on your resume. Because if you do, you're going to be 10 times ahead of others. And a lot of people, for the people that are scared of AI, you're going to actually be the one that's talking about it. So that's where follow the trend lines, kind of see, what else can you do? You can be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, I still do delivery.
You were doing that for a while.
I've been still doing it, and it works. I still make about 500 to 1,000 a week doing it, and it's just
that's a house payment,
Yeah, there's things you can do, and I'll tell you, when I was in transition earlier this year, and I had my 6 to 7 months where I was looking for a job. That was my fallback plan.
Absolutely.
And I had 2 or 3 other streams of income that I had created. One was my stock investments. I had dividend payments coming in, and that was helping me meet the bills. And it's just interesting. You got to get creative. You got to think carefully about. There's just so many applications for what you might have a hobby or something that you're really good at. Even flipping furniture, or you might have heard of flipping houses. that, you find an item that people want, and then you go sell it on the web. So you find it at a garage sale or something cheap, and then you sell it for a profit. It may sound mundane, but honestly, that is something you can do. So you can even ask ChatGPT, I need ideas to make money. Can you help me figure it out? And there's so many YouTube channels that are dedicated as well to side hustles and things like that.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think sometimes you have to make your own luck in this world. And I think, the days of being taken care of by, let's just say it for what it is, the days of being taken care of by a company for years on end, going into year after year after year, are technically gone.
No more pensions.
It's a little bit of a different world. So you have to think almost like an entrepreneur in everything you're doing and be creative, right?
Yeah.
So,
and all those industries you mentioned, construction, healthcare, manufacturing, all of that, a lot of people immediately go, oh, but I'm not a nurse. I don't know how to build something. I don't know, okay, accountants work in those fields. Office managers work in those fields. Marketing people work in those fields. Like these, companies have more than just construction companies hire more than just carpenters. Right. And I think that's something I really want to encourage job seekers to think about, is like, get outside of the comfortable industries or where you kind of grew up professionally. Like I've been in FANG for over a decade, right? But I got really lucky this last time around because I was in a very specific business division that isn't necessarily traditional tech. It's a very different kind of tech, and I specifically work.
And they were investing money in those projects, and you were in a very niche spot that they needed help with.
Exactly.
And you're right. I think that's the other thing, is you have to know kind of what you're good at, and then be able to spin that in the right direction. So a lot of people, what they're not doing right now is, I think some people, when they get there, because they haven't faced a layoff or they haven't faced a challenge, they kind of get stuck and they don't know how to pivot. And so the biggest lesson that I think that I've learned is, I really made friends with my reference librarians. And they helped me with great research and knowing which industries to look at. And I felt like that was, it doesn't have to be spooky, you guys. Let's just put it out there. You can be creative. You can be amazing. You can make things happen. Now let's talk about other things. How do you share your value add with people? How do you spread, when you're in an interview, what kinds of advice do you have for that kind of person that, it's been a while since I've interviewed? What do you have as valuable advice, being one of the queens of recruiting in yoga pants?
Where's my crown? I think prep goes a long way. And this is where recruiters have a responsibility to help our candidates understand what the company is looking for. Because if you're speaking one language and the interviewers are speaking a different language, you're not going to connect, right? It's going to be not literal languages, obviously, but if they're looking for like really hardcore behavioral based answers in the STAR format and you're going down hypothetical rabbit holes, that's not going to be a great outcome, most likely, right? So it's really understanding. Interview prep is so important. Having a good idea of what the company is looking for, why the role is open, what you're going to accomplish in the role, and how you can tie your previous experience back to it. And that's so critical. And so every company is going to do this a little differently. There's no one size fits all approach to prep, unfortunately, but this is where your recruiter better have those answers and be able to give you some specific.
And for those who don't know what STAR is, it's situation, task or time, actions, results. And let's just talk about what is the key element that some candidates see. It comes back to a core message about what your capability is. So first of all, if I were to structure it so that you could prep for an interview, I would talk about a linear kind of thinking, which is, you need to firstly know what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in an industry and you're looking to make a career pivot, you're like, okay, I need to learn that stuff. First of all, you got to get your foundation together, which is, you need to know what it is you want to be doing. And so you actually have to be functional and conversational in it. So get some more education, maybe get a certificate, whatever. If you're looking to pivot, that's my
Yeah.
advice. Find the baseline that you can be effective so that you can enter the industry, and know that you might have to take a cut in pay if you want to get
for sure.
new
You're
industry.
getting off of one career ladder where you're up higher and you're starting over on a new career ladder.
That's right. And that's very important for people to understand that. Now, on the other hand, the advice I'm about to give is the same if you're career pivoting or not, but you got to know what your target audience wants. So for instance, every hiring manager has a problem to solve.
Yes.
And that is the work to be done. And sometimes it's a short-term contract, sometimes it's a long-term need. And the longer the need, the tougher the interview might be. Or the higher the level, the tougher the interview may be, or the more layers of interview. So the key to each stage is you have to know your dollars and cents value contributions. So for me, it would be, one year I faced a busy hiring scenario where I had 30 openings at a time, and I filled 250 positions that year, and I was able to save over at least $10 million by improving process. And then I explained how I did that. I made sure that at each stage of the interview process, from the intake meeting where I sat down with the hiring manager, that I made sure their criteria, I understood it backwards and forwards. I talked to the incumbent, the one who was doing the job, and asked who their star performer was, so I would understand. So that's just an example of some value add there. I cut down on time to fill by 30%. I was able to increase diversity slates by 50%. It's going to sound like that. So when you're talking in that star format, you want to have some value-based statements that make sense. And by the way, I think we're coming up on time, aren't we? That was a fast.
We're very cool. I know it went so fast, and silly work gets in the way.
That's okay. And I was wanting to have a half-hour convo with you, but do you have any other parting shots before we depart?
I think so. Here's my thought, and I'll drop this bomb and run away. But I want to get your thoughts on this too. Maybe we'll do another follow up. We'll do.
We will.
That we can
we'll have another. Yeah, we'll definitely have another.
I think as we're getting into this, we started the conversation around AI, right? And we know that there's a lot, even though it's not as prevalent in recruiting as people want to believe. I'm just saying, y'all can yell at me later. It is becoming interestingly more prevalent on the job seeker side. So we're seeing a lot of like AI auto appliers, things like that people are leaning into. That hurts your chances more than anything else I can think of off the top of my head. We can explain more why in our next chat.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it comes down to personalization.
It does.
And sometimes those bots, those auto appliers, actually cause more problems.
They do.
They're not hyper personalized. They're hallucinating too.
They're making things up. But here's what's going to happen. Here's my prediction. The hiring world is going to continue to shrink. And this actually happened to a friend of mine who someone was, they were interested in a role, and they'd reached out, they had some connections, right? And they'd reached out to the hiring manager, and they were kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I've got a lot of interest. Thanks for, please go ahead and apply, whatever. Okay, and that's fine. Talk to another friend who had a connection with this leader. That friend went and said, oh no, you should really talk to this person. I know them really well. They're really great. Guess who got the job?
The one that had the referral.
Right. And again, referrals are not magic solutions, but my point in that is we're going to start seeing the hiring world shrink as managers. Like recruiters, I think, are always going to take the side of like, we need to provide fair consideration. We need to give everybody a fair chance and be unbiased. Right. And that's how I'm going to operate for my entire career. Hiring managers, though, if you can give them an opportunity that is a path of least resistance and more of a guaranteed shot versus the 150 resumes Amy's throwing at them.
Yep.
That connection, that referral, that previous knowledge
hire about 50% of roles, in my opinion. In some
Yeah,
cases.
it's only like
Depends
20%
on the role.
in my world, but I mean, I'm watching that change rapidly around me.
Yeah, it's a
So I'm very
significant
interested to
number,
see where
and
this
there's a lot of
goes.
jobs that aren't even posted.
Yeah,
There's like, I would say 75 to 85 that don't even get posted because they
I
know a
know.
person.
I know.
But we are
Well,
at time. I do want to say this. Thanks for coming, and it was
thanks
a great
for having
conversation. I know we
me.
had
Always.
some good advice, but wish we had a little bit more time. But that's
We're
okay.
gonna do it again.
We
Say
will. We
when.
will. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy
This is
Halloween.
just
I will.
dispelling some of the myths about the spooky nature of the job universe on this Halloween day. Have a great Halloween, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you on
Take
Where's Your
care.
Next time.